Welcome to the KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim.
That's Ashley.
That's Kim. We're here to recap and relive our favorite moments of episode 2, Happiness, with you, our listeners.
We're going to jump right in, so if you haven't yet, make sure you've watched this episode before you join us here so we can talk about it together on our podcast. So without further ado, let's jump in.
Welcome to the KDrama Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kim.
We're here to unpack your all-time favorite Korean dramas and chat about all the reasons that we find these shows so charming.
And so addictive, and we know you do too, so settle in with some ramen and a boba tea while we dive into the KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim.
Make sure you are following us on Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. Am I missing one? I'm going to be starting more polls again, but they are only on Spotify, so I need you to go to Spotify to answer them. And please answer them, because that helps us, communicate with you, get a little bit of a direction. Leave a comment, say hi. PSA, this show is considered to be thriller horror. It is zombies, so there's jump scares, and if it's not your cup of tea, it's also a little bit on the gory side, because, again, it's zombie related. This is not your cup of tea. Go listen to some of our other content, and come hang out with us again. Okay.
All right, so topic number 1 is called marriage. We open with this crowd that's looking on as a stretcher is loaded into the back of a military vehicle. And we see TaeSeok arrive on the scene, and he's wandering around, kind of looking at all of the carnage inside of this building. It's spread throughout this office. There's just blood on the walls, on the ceiling, on the floor. There's papers strewn about. And Jisoo walks in. Is that her name?
It's Lieutenant Lee.
Thank you. That's the actress's name. Yeah. Lieutenant Hyung is giving her report about this homeless man that was provided medication at this clinic after complaining about feeling sick. And so we are back at the police training academy, and we see that Seung-young is watching this news report about how this new biting disease is spreading like wildfire. And he pauses on the image of TaeSeok, and he kind of zooms in on it and recognizes him from the other day. But SaeBom shows up and sits down at his table, and he's like, what is happening? Ever since this incident with Jung, things have just been spiraling out of control. And he asks her if she thinks that there's a cure yet, and she responds by saying that, they're trying their best, they're working on it. And then Seung-young tells SaeBom that he's been contacted by a reporter who's offering a really large sum of money in order for information about the incident that had happened. And SaeBom says they must be reaching out to everyone because I've also gotten a call. Okay. So she kind of smiles and shares this good news that she has been accepted into the new housing development lottery after getting married. Just to get more points to earn her spot. But we flash back to right after SaeBom had been released from the military base with YiHyun, and she is having a meal while she's trying to convince him to be her husband in order to get this apartment. And as they're talking, we see that Lieutenant Hyun she walks up with a couple of drinks and is like, hey, I'm sorry we had to burn your clothes. This is kind of my apology for that. And SaeBom tries to make friends with her. She's like, are we close now? And Hyun just slinks away like, don't talk to me. I'm still mad at you.
I do not like you.
But YiHyun is skeptical. YiHyun is skeptical about moving in and marrying, but he eventually agrees to do it, which kind of seems like it comes as a surprise to SaeBom. Mm-hmm. But he is really all in. And we get back to the lunch table with Seung-young, where he congratulates her. But SaeBom is looking at the scratch on her hand from Jung-tae, and she's like, it hasn't been healing very quickly, but it hasn't gotten worse. And I need to give blood every 2 weeks to the military base now. But Seung-young kind of starts to nervously rub his jacket. Mm-hmm. And SaeBom is like, are you okay? But she gets a call and leaves the table, so he doesn't have to answer her. That brings us into topic 2, which is called complex.
So, the reason that SaeBom had left the table is YiHyun had called her and saying, hey, I'm going to head home. Take your time. I'll start moving everything, putting things away. And we then cut back to Corporal Lee, and he has left the building, and he's walked to a waiting car, and the window rolls down, and he goes, how much are you willing to pay? And there's a reporter in there, and he's just like, come on, you give us a story, we give you money. Mm-hmm. it is the most basic, like, trade that we're going to have here. And he actually gets into the car. But then he's actually in the training room now, and he's thinking back to all of this. And he has, like, one of the broken shards of, like, a mirror, and he's pulling his jacket away, and he has a nasty scratch that's kind of, like, down his neck into his shoulder.
It's like festering.
It's very, very much gross. And that kind of stuff used to, like, not faze me at all, and now I go, maybe I don't like this. But it's a scratch that was made by the trainee that had been pulled out, that had originally been attacked. Mm-hmm. We're back at the station, and Jungkook has pulled out a picture for YiHyun. It's, like, been printed onto, like, a big canvas. And he goes, how did you remember this? Like, this is 12 years old. And he's like, you know what? It was the day I almost died, so I'm gonna remember this. But Jungkook congratulates him and then hands him a box of rice cakes, saying, like, this, you know, my wife has a side hustle now. Like, just hand these out, promote our store. And then gives him all the information that he has found on TaeSeok. You know, he currently works in infectious diseases. He, like, when he was part of the military academy, there's, like, a program where they'll send you off to medical school. So he became a doctor, then served as a medic as he finished out his service. Then he moved and started to work at a pharmaceutical company, and he was the team leader of competitiveness reinforcement, which is a long title.
I'm pretty sure the company that he works for has, like, a 6-letter acronym, and I'm like, I'm not writing that down.
That one?
I'm too dyslexic for that.
The CDSCHQ?
Yeah.
I had to stop it 5 times because I could not remember what order it was supposed to be.
Just put it in alphabetical, it'll be fine.
No one's gonna know.
No, they would never know.
How would they know?
Sorry.
So he was a team leader, and then there was actually a trial that he had gone through for attacking the CEO of his company. But then out of nowhere, he was found to be innocent, and then he was sent back to the military as a dispatch for the CDSCHQ. Try saying that once.
No.
And Detective Jungkook just is like, you know what? I think you need to stay away from him, stay away from whatever is going on, because there's a lot, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be anything good. But then we see that SaeBom has made her way home. She's parked in her new spot in her parking garage, and she's just thinking about the conversation that she had with Corporal Lee. You know, and he was asking, you know, about the trainee who had been attacked, not the one who had attacked, the one, you know, like, how is he doing? I've been told that, like, you know, not even his family's been allowed to see him. Nobody knows where he's at. And wherever he is, people go in there and they don't come out. Mm-hmm. And they were just musing over the fact that SaeBom was the only person who's ever walked out of that location. And she gets out of her car and makes her way home. She gets on the elevator. She's just kind of, like, taking in her surroundings. And there's another tenant that gets on, and he, you know, gives her a mask and is like, hey, please wear this inside, because, again, this is the time frame when this is filmed. And he notices her jacket, and he's like, that looks real. That doesn't look like somebody just printed that on there. And she's like, yeah, I'm part of the SOU. And he gets really excited. He's like, hey, do you think there's any way that I could get a t-shirt? And she, like, confirms when she gets off the elevator. She's like, okay, sorry, like, large, right? And he's like, yeah, you know, I live on the 15th floor, so the top of the building. She goes, okay, like, I'll see what I can do. Also, fun fact about that scene. That actor is the ex-fiancé of Love Next Door.
Yep.
SaeBom makes it to, you know, her new apartment and sees that YiHyun has already started to put some things away, and he's actually unwrapping the picture that Jungkook had gifted him. And SaeBom was like, wow, how did you find that? Like, and he goes, well, I knew he had the file. And it is the picture from the day that she pushed him off the roof. And they're talking to each other, and so she's handcuffed. And he's sitting there, and Jungkook, you know, calls him like, hey, turn around, stand straight. And they just turn around, and they're just, like, deadpan, staring at the camera. And he snaps a picture, and he goes, when things get like, when life gets tough, just look at this.
Yeah.
And they hang up the pictures, and they're just like, you know what, this is gonna help sell, like, a legitimate reason of why we got married. We look like we have a really deep story between us.
Which they do.
They do.
That brings us into topic number 3, which is called neighborly. So YiHyun gets ready to hand out the box of rice cakes that Jungkook had given to him. But SaeBom's like, no, you stay here and unpack. I'll take him around. And she's like the one person in the group projects that's like, yeah, I'll put my name on it. But she's also like, hey, order some jjajangmyeon and make sure you get me the double serving while I'm gone. But the first door that she rings is across the hallway on their floor. And they see this little girl answer, and she takes the rice cake and just kind of quickly closes the door, right? Because stranger danger.
Mm-hmm.
And then up on the next floor, the door into the hallway is actually jammed. And the little girl kind of pops up behind her and says, you know, they block those to prevent the people that are on the public rental floors down below from entering the upper private apartments, privately owned apartments. So the only access is by using the elevator. And then SaeBom asks her, well, who's on that floor? And the little girl says, well, there's an empty apartment. There's an empty apartment here, and then there's another apartment where the woman didn't come home yesterday, right? Isn't that what she says?
Yeah.
But SaeBom's like, well, wow, you really kind of know everything, and I think she sees a little bit of herself in this little girl. But she'd been leaving, but she turns around and she's like, no, this is not okay. So she kicks down the door and she knocks like a whole stack of cinder blocks to the ground. And the little girl is just really, really impressed by this whole show of strength. But SaeBom rings one of the doorbells, and there's this man who is on the phone. And this is just peak COVID comedy. He is in a coat and tie, right, talking on the phone, but he has his pajama pants on.
Relatable.
Anyone who's worked from home on a Zoom meeting knows the vibe. But SaeBom hands him the rice cakes, and he hands her a business card in return saying, you know, since we're neighbors, I'll give you legal counseling for free. Mm-hmm. His name is Kwok Hae-sung, and he specializes in car accidents. But back in the apartment, we see he brings the rice cake in, and while he's doing that, there's a woman who's answering messages on Kakao, and he just throws the rice cakes in the trash, saying, you know, it's not wise to take food from strangers and eat it. And his wife's like, well, you're being ridiculous, but let's get back to work. At the next apartment that she stops at, SaeBom rings the doorbell, but no one answers, and we just hear this really loud thudding from inside, which is kind of familiar to us as the viewers from the hotel that we saw earlier. But as she leans in to listen, we can see inside the apartment that there is... I just realized what the thudding was. As she's kind of listening with her ear to the door, we see inside the apartment that there's a man who's actually watching her through the doorbell camera. Mm-hmm. And he's in his underwear. But as SaeBom has her ear to the door, this woman in red walks up behind her asking, who are you? She's very short with SaeBom. But she takes the rice cake and then goes inside of her apartment. So as this woman is walking in, the man is exiting the bathroom with his hair wet, pretending to have just washed his hair, which we know was not the case 2 minutes earlier. But this was his reasoning for not answering the door when SaeBom was outside. But as she walks into their bedroom, he kind of insists, you need to go wash your feet first. You've had a long day. But she sits on the bed and takes her medication, which looks like the next pill. Mm-hmm. And we learn that she's actually a dermatologist who's been working extra long hours because of him, for some reason. And he ends up leading her out of the room, and he kind of glances back as he shuts the door because underneath the bed, his mistress is climbing out, and she leaves a little token behind as she does so. But that brings us into topic number 4, which is called orders.
So SaeBom and YiHyun are cleaning up after, their dinner, and there's, there's still stuff to be put away. And she pulls out a contract and it says, okay, this is granting you joint ownership in 10 years. It's going to be 60-40 because I have higher points. And he's like, well, of course, you also saved my life. This is clearly something that she has held over him.
Brought up over and over.
And he's just gotten to the point where he's like, he's just accepted it at this point. He understands who she is well enough. And she starts to like really inspect their apartment, looking at the floor, and is like, well, I really wanted this type of flooring, but it's brand new. You know, so it's fine. But I know what I want eventually.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what kind of curtains should we get? Should we get blinds for the balcony? You know, I want different countertops, but again, this is all new, so we're just going to keep it for now. What if we just switch out, like, you know, the faucets? And they're just kind of like dreaming together. More like she's dreaming and he's just going along with whatever she says. You know, they open one of the bedroom doors and she's like, we'll get gym equipment here. And he's like, all right, which makes sense. They're both, you know, in the police force, so having an area to work out is kind of vital. And when they open up the other bedroom, he had set up 2 single beds just next to each other. And he was like, you know, just in case the inspector drops by, like, this is at least an easy fix. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, this is great. And so when they go to bed that night, SaeBom is just kind of like relishing in having her own space again. And she talks about when she was young, they had a house. And then because of her being in the hospital and being sick, they had to downsize so much that her entire family was in a 1-room apartment. Mm-hmm. And there was no, like, you could not have any space to yourself. She goes, I could leave all day and wander around, but I always had to go home to sleep. And sometimes when my parents fought, it was too much that I would take my dad's keys and I would just go sleep in the car because I just needed my own space. And she, like, quickly falls asleep, content and just, like, sprawled in her bed of, like, this is all I've needed. And Jung just looks over and is like, okay, well, we're gonna cover you with the blanket, make sure your phone's on that charger. But in the middle of the night, SaeBom is having a nightmare, reliving the moments of Jung-tae and him attacking her and just, like, everything that had gone on. And it freaks her out and wakes her up.
And she tells her that she's next.
Yeah, right. Terrible nightmare. But she sits up and we hear that there's banging from the upstairs neighbors. And, like, YiHyun even wakes up and he's like, what is going on? He's like, do you want me to go up there? And she's like, no, it's fine. Just go back to sleep. And he does. He's just like...
In true man fashion.
But the next morning, Yoon gets a phone call, and it's like 6 o'clock in the morning, and has to go. And so he goes downstairs after telling SaeBom, like, don't worry about it. It's just for my investigation. Go back to sleep. And it is TaeSeok, and he's waiting for him downstairs. And Yoon kind of gets, like, upset with him of, like, why do you continue to have to take blood from her? Like, she's already exhausted. You've already done too much to her. And he goes, you know what? It's thanks to me that you even got to marry her. So deal with that.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. He then asks if he had seen the news about the homeless shelter where the attacks had been and the deaths were. And he said there's going to be an article released about next. And the government's plan is to go out and get all of the drugs, arrest everybody, and punish them, and that's supposed to solve the problem. And Young's just like, why do I need to know this information? Like, why are you telling me this? And TaeSeok's like, well, it's because you're going to help me.
This is your debriefing.
Welcome to my team. And he's like, yeah, I have my own stuff going on. I pass, thank you. And he then gets a phone call from his chief saying, you're going to cooperate and you're going to work with him. He's like, I guess I'm helping you now. Thanks. So TaeSeok hands him a phone, and it was Jung-tae's, and, you know, they had gotten it unlocked, and he's like, I need you to pose, and set up a drug deal. And he was like, do you know how hard those are? They are very greedy. They don't trust anybody. And, like, TaeSeok, like, brings out this bag full of cash, and he's like, set up the meeting and tell me when it's done.
If there's more incidentals, just write up an expense report. It's fine. It's
not a big deal. But before he leaves, Young asks him, he's like, what about your time with the pharmaceutical company? Like, what was that all about? And TaeSeok he's like, you know what? My job didn't mean that I had to be good at creating things. I just had to be good at stealing them. Right? He tries asking about the trial, and he's just like, just let me know when you've set up the deal.
So topic number 5 is called A New Friend. So SaeBom is laying in bed and she is busy planning out how she wants to decorate the house a little bit further. And she receives a call from her mom, and her mom is in the hospital, and she's like, hey, is there a reason that I have to get news about your life from YiHyun and not you? But SaeBom's like, well, I was too busy getting tested for this new disease that's going around. Kind of like the new COVID, you know how it goes. It's not a big deal. People are saying, though, that it's similar to rabies, and her mom brings that up. And she's like, is YiHyun okay being around you if you've got, like, rabies? And SaeBom's like, no, we really love each other, so he's fine. It'll be okay. And she gets kind of weird, and she's like, I'll let you know about the future wedding date, but I gotta go. SaeBom realizes that all they have in the fridge, though, is water and beer. Kind of looks like a classic bachelor pad, which is fitting because she's basically an honorary bachelor. And so she starts to think about getting groceries. But as she's looking at a flyer in their apartment, she sees that it's advertising the apartment complex's gym, which is down on the lower floors. And she hears the upstairs neighbors thudding around again. She's kind of fed up with it because this is like the second or third time it's happened within a day. So we see SaeBom is heading out the front door, and the little girl from across the hall was leaving her a little handwritten thank you for the rice cakes from the day before. She asks SaeBom if she's actually a police officer. And the little girl's like, well, one day when I get healthy, I'm going to be a police officer just like you. And SaeBom kind of reassures her, like, you know, when I was in school, I was sick for 2 years, so it's not something that would ever stop you from actually becoming a police officer. Anything is possible. But the little girl decides to tag along with SaeBom, and she goes to confront the noisy upstairs neighbors. And we see the sketchy husband answer the door, and he apologizes for moving his furniture around in the middle of the night. And SaeBom kind of tries to get a peek inside the apartment, you know, and he, like, blocks the view with his body in the door, which is a little sketchy. He compliments her on her pretty daughter before just slamming the door shut. It's like, oh, you guys look just alike, haha, bye. And then goes back inside his apartment. And SaeBom asks the little girl if she knows who he is. And she says, well, he's always really standoffish. He never really talks to anybody, but we see him in the elevator from time to time. But he and his wife have legal problems. And his wife, they are both doctors. So SaeBom sends the little girl home, which makes the little girl kind of sad. And this is when she finds out that the little girl actually stays home alone all day because she's sick and her parents have to work to earn money for everyone to live. And so she's like, all right, you can be my little shadow for the day. And it's really sweet. That brings us into topic number 6, which is called exclusive.
So after they make their way downstairs, she's decided to check out the gym and is handed like a clipboard with one of the trainers of like, okay, give us your information so that way we know, kind of just keeping track of who's coming in and out. And she fills everything out, and when she hands back the paperwork, the trainer just goes, oh, yeah, you can't work out in here because you're part of the public rental apartments. And she's like, is that a problem? Like, is it about the maintenance for the gym? And she gets told that the, quote, regular residents who have paid for the equipment find it to be unfair that the public rental residents get to use it for free.
Translation, you're too poor.
Yeah. Peasant. The trainer, however, offers to, sign her up. If you sign up with me, I can get you in here. It could be a different thing. And she's just like, yeah, I'm out. Like, I have better things to do with my time than sit here and deal with, bureaucratic red tape. So, no thank you. And as they leave, Soyeon asks her, she asks Soyeon, did you know about this for, like, having to be, like, regular residents? And she goes, yeah, but I figured that you would be able to take care of it. She's like, aren't there any, like, rules that they're breaking? She goes, not when it comes to money. Money kind of trumps everything. And so they go outside and use some of the outdoor equipment to work out on. And they have just, like, this cute little conversation. But we cut to Corporal Lee, and he's looking again at the scratch that's, like, on his neck shoulder. And he's watching as his wife has called him. And this is, like, one of many missed calls. And he has not responded to her at all. And then he takes the shard of glass and cuts his own wrist. When we cut back to SaeBom, who is walking back to her apartment, and she gets a call from Corporal Lee, and he's asking, please help me, because he has gotten scratched, and so he's finally coming clean about what had happened to him. And so she goes and picks him up, and as she's rushing him to the really long acronym that can be said in any order of CDSCHDQ, I think that's right, I'm guessing, to the headquarters to get testing done. And so once they're inside, Lieutenant Lee, she's doing all of the tests, you know. Corporal Lee has a bite guard on, they're drawing blood, but when she looks at the cut or the scratch, she's like, this looks like a cut and it looks like this was fresh. Like, this doesn't look like a typical scratch that we've seen before. She's like, but honestly, I don't think you're infected. I don't think there's anything to be worried about. And he has handcuffs on, and he's just like, okay, well then if there's nothing to worry about, can you take these off for me? And she takes one of the cuffs off, and then she cuffs him to the chair. She's just like, there you go. You have freedom to move now. And SaeBom and Lieutenant Lee leave so that she can get her blood drawn again. When Corporal Lee just tells himself, you know, it's going to be okay. I'm just going to make money, and I'm going to get out of here.
That brings us to topic 7, which is called Frozen. So SaeBom is giving her blood sample in another room, and Jisoo asks her, you know, you need to give advance notice about these types of situations before you just show up at our doorstep like this again. And SaeBom tells Jisoo, well, why don't you go open my bag? There's something in there for you. And it's one of the containers of rice cake. And SaeBom tells her, you know, you should spoil those people that you don't like. Basically kill them with kindness, right? And so Jisoo kind of very tentatively, like, tastes the rice cake and takes a bite of it. And they kind of have this conversation where SaeBom asks if Jung-tae has been allowed to see his family yet. And Jisoo says, well, you know, a bite guarantees infection, and this disease is just so unpredictable that we can't risk exposing civilians to this, especially when he feels thirsty. When they feel thirst, they relapse more and more frequently until the person just disappears into the disease. But Jisoo tries to reassure SaeBom that her particular resistance to the disease actually gives hope for others to be able to do the same eventually. So as they return to the area that Seung-young was waiting, they realize that he has disappeared into the facility with his chair. But SaeBom calls him, and he says that, you know, I'm doing this for my family. Here in this clinic, my death is guaranteed, but at least I can make this mean something if I can provide for my family in my last moments. And SaeBom realizes that he's about to do something very, very stupid, and she's trying to get him on the line again to talk him down from whatever it is he's trying to do, but he's not answering anymore. So Jisoo has rallied the guards, and she's telling SaeBom that he has donned a biohazard suit now, and he's sneaking around the base. SaeBom asks Jisoo, where are you keeping the severely infected people? Because she's thinking back to the interviewer who had been calling around and asking for an exclusive. And Jisoo says, well, we've been keeping them in the meat lockers in the basement, but we've run out of space, so we had to start keeping them in refrigerator trucks out back. And Seung-young has, in fact, made his way to these refrigerator trucks with his folding chair in tow, and he sneaks inside one of the unlocked trailers. The interior has been draped like in plastic, and it's extremely dark and hard to see, so he ends up pulling out his phone flashlight. And he sees that there's just stacks of shelves holding infected people. It's like it's some sort of massive morgue, pretty much, which is kind of horrific to Seung-young. And they are stacked 3 high and maybe like 10 to 12 deep in this truck, so there's at least like 30 bodies in there. And at this moment, some of the guards walking past this truck realize that it was unlocked, so they throw the arm down and lock him inside. And he gets a text at this moment from the journalist asking if he's gotten the information yet. And Seung-young calls him right away saying, you know, if you pay me, I'll get you the scoop of the century. And the reporter pushes back and he's like, you can't even just pay me half. Like, this is a big, big story. And as he's shouting at the reporter, we see a hand slowly reach through one of the plastic drapes. That brings us to topic 8, which is called Deal.
Corporal Lee has started to record everything on his phone because hello, this is the scoop of the century, and if he wants to get paid, you need proof. And he starts to walk towards the end of the trailer again, to the opposite direction. And as he makes it to the end with getting all this video footage, one of the infected rolls out and then stands up, and Corporal Lee finds himself suddenly surrounded by very agitated, infected people. But we cut to YiHyun, and he's on a stakeout with Detective Kim, and they're outside of a car wash, and Jungkook's just going, why are we just sitting here? Like, what's going on? And Young's just like, we're just waiting for someone, just hold on. And TaeSeok climbs in the car with them, and neither of the detectives are very pleased that he's there. Like, they would like anything else to do with their time. But TaeSeok tells Detective Kim to stay in the car, and he and YiHyun are going to go inside the car wash. Car wash. And as they're walking inside, YiHyun learns that it was actually TaeSeok that had stolen the drug from a different pharmaceutical company to bring back to his own. And he's just like, really? And he was like, I told you my job was to steal things. And he just goes like, I did not see this whole scenario playing out here.
Didn't think you meant literally.
Not like, wow, okay. So they walk inside, and there is a car and somebody, waiting outside to make the deal. Or two guys waiting outside the car to make the deal. And he just walks to the middle and drops the money and gets just into a big old fight, and guns are drawn. And TaeSeok just watches the whole thing and just lets him just take out the two guys. And it's only when the leader is being held up that that they learn that the drugs are supposed to be in the trunk. Well, when YiHyun goes to lift the trunk door open, he almost gets taken out himself by an infected person. And TaeSeok walks up, and he begins to shoot this person, or this infected person, and basically unloads his magazine into it, even after the trunk is shut. And YiHyun just pulls out his gun, and he's like, seriously, you're going to shoot a person in front of a cop? Do we not see the problem here? And he goes, that is not a human being. That has just become a monster. There is no stopping. There is no going back. And they pull out this huge bag full of drugs, and get the information from the dealer that the person that was in the trunk was somebody who had been wanting to buy drugs from this guy, and he was already infected by the time that he had shown up. And as they're getting more information from the dealer, TaeSeok gets a phone call saying that there is a problem going on back at the base. And we see that Lieutenant Lee is running the show right now of okay, we need teams here, here, and here. We're trying to figure out what trailer, basically, all of the problems are happening in, where Corporal Lee is. And he calls SaeBom and says, they aren't human. And then the line gets disconnected. And when they find what trailer he's in, they go to open the doors, and SaeBom's yelling, don't do that, because all of these hands start reaching out. And so they're trying to, get the door closed and locked it down, but they can't, because Corporal Lee had shoved his chair into the middle of the door, so they couldn't actually close it. But he is now an infected. End of episode.
Character of the hour.
I think in this episode it's YiHyun. Oh, he's obviously very much into this whole idea of, we're just getting married for an apartment. And he's like, I told you I was joking when I asked you out, but we're going to get married and live together now? What? Okay, I'm in. But he's not pushy. He's not going to ever do anything that's going to, potentially compromise their friendship.
Right.
And having just the memory of, hey, I know a picture was taken of us on one of the most intense days of my life, because I thought I was going to die when she pushed me off the roof. But that is the beginning of their friendship, being what it is. And so, like, that's a memory for them that he's like, no, like, that was a big deal. And even his, willingness to help out Jungkook with handing out the rice cakes for his wife, and the contract where it's, we're going to split this 60-40, I get higher points, and he's like, yeah, of course you do. And just, I don't know, he's just very, I know what word it is, I just can't say it, because I can't.
Can you describe the word?
If I do, I'll forget what it is. Like, that's where my brain is.
Is it, like, charismatic?
No.
Blah.
No, it's nonstop. It's a consideration. Like, he's very considerate without being condescending.
Okay.
Basically, is what his entire thing, especially this episode, is. But also, like, standing up for, like, he tells TaeSeok off, like, you need to leave SaeBom alone. Like, stop treating her like a pincushion. I don't like it. No, I'm going to call you out on the fact that, you were almost convicted of assault. Why'd you do that? I need to know. If I have to deal with you, I need to know what kind of person I'm being stuck with.
I think mine is probably SaeBom, because of, like, her regard for the little girl next door. And her friends. I mean, she drops everything to go help Sung-young when he calls her, and is trying to be reassuring and stable and tell him he's going to make it through, even though she's not sure herself what is happening in the world. And so I just appreciate her for trying to be someone that everyone can rely on in her very roundabout, quippy, slightly sarcastic sort of way, which I can relate to. So
She's a very familiar feeling person.
Final thoughts.
I really enjoy that we're only on episode 2, and we already feel that, like, we can feel the tension really building. I mean, the fact that there's way more that's been going on behind the scenes and, like, in the underground than anybody even knows about, and the fact that they've kept it, under wraps for the most part. Obviously, there's the one reporter who's like, there's something going on and I want to know what it is.
Yeah.
But to already be on episode 2 and it's like, no, we have trailerfuls.
Because there's nowhere else to put them.
There's nowhere else to put them of people who are infected. And we have no idea what we're supposed to even be looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I like that it's already, like, built some good, like, just, like, foundational building blocks of the story.
Yeah. I'll say this. I was kind of realizing how different of a tone this part of the show is from where it goes next. Yeah. And it almost feels like a completely different show, especially after watching Sweet Home. Like, I feel like I'm blending the two a little bit in my brain. Yeah. But yeah, that whole, where the story goes, having seen this, a couple of times already, where the story goes, I'm trying to, like, reconcile it with where it's at right now. And it's not clicking. I don't even remember how we get to that point, which is fine. We'll get there. But you make a good point. Like, they've done the world building really well. The story just kind of sucks you in. There's a reason that we both finished this in a matter of days. Like, it's a very good story. I finished it in a day. Yeah, it's an easy watch. It's a quick watch. Yeah. So yeah, it's well acted, well written. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a reason we wanted to talk about it. So yeah. If you have not yet, make sure you have checked out some of our other content on YouTube and our other platforms, on Insta. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below if you have any ideas for new shows. We are currently planning our season 6 roster, and we want to know what you want to see. So give us your ideas. Mm-hmm. All right. Like what you're hearing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any new episodes. We'd love to connect with you on our Instagram at the KDrama Show. For more behind-the-scenes content, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. Links are in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with us on the KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim, and we'll see you next time.